Chapter 21. He turned the car onto Fear Street, cruised the long block, and this time pulled right up the gravel drive to the Corwin house. He had never seen the house in daylight. It looked even shabbier with a bright sun beaming down on its faded shingles and falling gutters. His parents had wondered where he was going so early on a Sunday morning. He had told them he had a special gymnastics team workout. He didn't like lying to them, especially when it was such a feeble lie. But he couldn't very well tell them he was driving to Fear Street to find out why a girl's brother was terrorizing him and Lisa and had tried to kill Lisa. He didn't really know what he'd do if Brad answered the door. He'd been up most of the night thinking about it, but he hadn't been able to come up with a plan. All night he had tried to sort out his feelings about Anna. He felt angry at himself for becoming involved with her and her sick, crazy brother, yet he also felt sorry for her, and he was frightened for her, and he was still terribly attracted to her old-fashioned prettiness, to her teasing sexiness, to her differentness. All these weeks he had spent thinking of nothing but Anna, and still, to this very moment, she was a complete mystery to him. Well, no more. He was about to unravel the mystery, all of the mysteries. He wasn't going to leave until his every question was answered. He knocked loudly on the door. No response. He waited a while. Ignoring the pounding in his chest and the impulse to run as far from this house as he could, he raised his fist and pounded again. Silence. He knocked again, harder. Then again. He waited. There wasn't a sound inside the house. No sign that anyone was there. More angry than disappointed, Corey turned and started back to the car. Morning. It was the strange neighbor. He was leaning on the hood of Corey's car. He was wearing the same rain slicker and white tennis hat, even though it was a bright, sunny morning. Voltaire, the big Doberman, was at his side. Corey jumped back, then was relieved to see that the dog was on a leash. "Don't ever see you much in the daytime," the man said, grinning at Corey. Not exactly a friendly grin, but a more pleasant expression than Corey had ever seen on him. "Guess not," Corey said, walking slowly to the car. "They're not home," the man said, pointing to the house. "Left early this morning." "Oh," Corey said. "Know where they went?" The man seemed offended by the question. "I'm no snoop," he said curtly. "You seem to know a lot about them," Corey said. The man looked at him thoughtfully. "Can't help but notice some things when you're a neighbor," he said finally. "You seem like an all-right young man." The compliment startled Corey. "Thanks." "That's why I can't understand your coming to visit them," he said pointedly. The dog barked. Okay, Voltaire." The man pulled himself up from Corey's car. "Be seeing you," he said, giving Corey a wave as if they were old friends, and then trotted off to keep up with his pulling dog. "Not if I see you first," Corey said under his breath. Neither the old guy nor his dog seemed as threatening in the daytime, though. Just a snoopy neighbor out walking his dog day and night, trying to see what he can learn around the neighborhood. Well, Corey had learned absolutely nothing. He took one last look at the old house, then dejectedly got back into the car. He had spent the whole night going over and over what he was going to say, and now there was no one to say any of it to. He spent the afternoon trying to do some homework. He was terribly behind. He called the Corwin's house every half hour. There was no one home all day or all evening. The next morning, feeling nervous and out of sorts, he drove to school early and waited by Anna's locker for her to show up. But she hadn't arrived when the bell rang, and he went to his homeroom, disappointed again. He didn't catch up with her till after school. Then he ran into her by accident outside the biology lab. She looked for a moment as if she didn't recognize him. Then her expression changed, and she gave him a warm smile. "Corey, hi. I've got to talk to you. I can't. I've got to go home and..." He grabbed her arm. He wasn't sure why. He wasn't sure what he planned to do. He just knew he wasn't going to let her get away. "No, you're coming with me. I've got to talk to you. I'll take you home after." She didn't resist. She could see that he was serious, that he wouldn't take no for an answer. He led her to his car in silence, pulling her as if she were a captive, not letting go of her hand, as if she might slip away and disappear into thin air if he didn't hold on. He drove to the Division Street Mall. She played with the radio, pushing the buttons in order, listening to a station for 10 seconds, then moving on to the next. At the pizza oven, he guided her to a booth in the back. She slid in across from him, smiling uneasily. her eyes darting nervously to the front of the long, narrow restaurant. It was quiet. Only a few booths were filled. Most of the after-school crowd hadn't arrived yet. A waitress slouched over to them, cracking her bubble gum noisily. Corey ordered 2 Cokes. Then he turned to Anna and took her hand. "Tell me the truth about you and about Brad," he said, staring into her deep blue, mysteriously opaque eyes. "I want to know what's going on. Everything." She didn't question him. She seemed to know that she had no choice this time. And when she started talking, she seemed eager to get the story out, desperate to tell it to him, relieved to finally have someone to tell it to. "I moved here last month with my mother and Brad," she began, looking at Corey, then shifting her gaze to the front window of the restaurant, then back to Corey. "My father left us, just disappeared several years ago. My mother is not well. She's very frail. Brad has always been the head of the family. About a year ago," she continued, talking rapidly in her soft voice, "something terrible happened to Brad. He was in love with a girl named Emily. Emily was killed in a plane crash. It was just awful. And Brad never recovered from the shock." "What do you mean?" Corey asked. "He lost his grip on reality. He just couldn't take Emily's death. For a while, he imagined that Emily was still alive. We had a sister. Her name was Willa. Willa was a year older than me. She looked like me, but she was really beautiful. She was the true beauty of the family. After Emily died, Brad got very protective of Willa and me. He got very crazy, very mixed up. He started calling Willa by the wrong name. He started calling her Emily. Soon after that, he started telling people that Willa was dead, even when she was standing right there in the room. We didn't know what to do with Brad. He was so mixed up. We tried to get him to go to a doctor, but he refused." "Here's the Cokes. Pay now, please," the waitress interrupted. Corey pulled out his wallet and found $2 bills. Anna tore the paper off the straw and greedily drank her Coke, almost to the bottom, without taking a breath. "Go on, please," Corey urged. "The story just gets worse," she said. A single large tear formed in each eye. Her eyes looked like 2 blue lakes, Corey thought. Brad kept confusing Willa and Emily. He kept saying Willa was dead. Then, one horrible day, it happened. Willa was killed. She fell down the basement stairs. Corey groaned aloud. How awful! Brad was home at the time. He said it was an accident. Willa was carrying some clothes down to the basement, and she just slipped and fell. But Mom and I never believed him. We suspected that Brad had pushed Willa. First, you see, he was telling people that Willa was dead, and then she really was dead. We were so frightened. We were terrified of Brad, of what he might do next. But we had no one else to support us. Dad left when we were little. He just took off. Mom was too sick to work and too proud to take welfare. We had no one but Brad. So what could we do? We had to believe his story that Willa's death was an accident. "So then you moved to Shadyside?" Corey asked. "No, not yet. This was still last spring. Brad seemed better for a while. But then his mind became confused again. He started telling people that I was dead. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. Was Brad going to kill me next? I was terrified every day." "I don't believe this. I just don't believe it," Corey said, offering her his Coke since she had finished hers. She took a long sip. "Somehow, Mom got the strength to insist that we move. We moved here to Shadyside. We hoped the new surroundings would help snap Brad out of his shock, his confusion, but it hasn't helped. He keeps telling people that I'm dead, and at the same time, he's terribly overprotective. He won't let me go out, or have dates, or anything. Some days, he won't even let me go to school." "So that explains it," Corey said, more to himself than to her. The dreadful deaths of her story were still spinning through his mind. This poor girl is living in a nightmare, he thought. I've got to find a way to help her. We've got to get Brad out of the house. But then he remembered something. "Hey, wait a minute," he said. "What?" She looked as if she were dreading what he was about to say. "I saw a newspaper clipping from Melrose. It said that you were dead. It had a picture and everything." "Oh," she flushed. Her hands gripped the edge of the Formica tabletop. She was thinking hard. She didn't seem to have an answer. "Oh, yes, I remember that newspaper thing now," she said, her normal color returning. "I guess I blocked it. Isn't it horrible? Can you imagine seeing your own obituary in a newspaper? Brad claimed that the newspaper got it all wrong, but I think Brad just couldn't face Willa's death, and so he told them it was me." Corey shook his head in disbelief. "Corey, I'm so frightened all the time," Anna said. grabbing his hand in hers. I don't know what to think. Is Brad confusing me with Emily? Is he confusing me with Willa? Since he's telling people I'm dead, does it mean he plans to kill me too? I'm really scared, especially now that my mother is visiting her sister. Brad and I are alone. Corey just stared back at her, at the soft tears forming along the rims of her beautiful eyes, at her golden hair. He didn't know what to say. It was such a sad and frightening story. Suddenly, she leaned across the tabletop and pulled his face close to hers. She began to kiss him, gently at first, and then harder. Then, just as suddenly, she stopped and pulled back, her face filled with horror. Corey turned around in the booth to see what she was looking at. There was Brad outside the front window, his face pressed to the glass, a look of fury on his face. I've got to go, Anna said, her face filled with panic. She leapt up from the booth and disappeared out the back door of the restaurant. Corey turned to the front. Brad hadn't moved from the window. He was staring straight ahead at Corey, his face frozen in hatred, in rage. Chapter 22. He tried to call Lisa as soon as he got home, but she was out with her family. Then, after dinner, he tried to call Anna. The phone rang and rang. He let it ring 20 times. He counted the rings. Then, his head spinning with frightening images. Images of Brad's furious face. Images of Anna's fear. Images of Anna falling down endless basement stairs. He hung up. He tried 5 minutes later, and 5 minutes after that, letting the phone ring 20 times each call, but with the same results. What if something had happened to her? What if Brad, in his rage at seeing them together in a restaurant, had done something to her? No, he couldn't allow himself to think that. But he had to. Brad had already killed once, or so Anna believed. Who was to say that he couldn't kill again? Standing with his red face pressed against the restaurant window, his eyes bugging out, his mouth twisted in fury, Brad had certainly looked like someone who could kill. Corey picked up the phone again and, ignoring his trembling hand, dialed the Corbin house again. Someone picked up on the 6th ring. Yeah. Corey recognized the harsh voice. Brad? I know Anna's there. Put her on the phone. Anna isn't anywhere. Anna is dead. The phone clicked off. Brad had hung up on him. What did Brad mean? Was Anna really dead now? Had Brad just killed her? No, this was just another of Brad's sick, twisted fantasies. Or was it? Corey realized he had no choice. He pulled on his jacket, ran down the stairs 2 at a time, and grabbed the car keys from the front entranceway table. Hey, where are you going? His mom called. He mumbled an answer. He wasn't sure what he said. He pulled the front door closed behind him, and a few seconds later he was speeding through a thick, wet fog, driving blindly, with Anna's face as only guidepost, driving once again to Fear Street. Anna, be alive, he said to himself. Please, be alive, be alive, be alive. The windshield wipers, clearing the wet fog from the glass, clicked the rhythm to his words. Be alive, be alive, be alive. The drive seemed to take hours. Finally, he pulled up the long gravel drive to the Corbin house and squealed to a stop. Not turning off the engine or the lights, he threw open the car door and ran up to the porch. He stopped at the front door, raised his hand, and knocked, and heard a loud scream. A scream of anger, of fury. A scream of anger, of fury. He's come for me. Let me go. She's alive, he thought. And, without hesitating, he pushed open the heavy wooden front door and burst into the house. He found himself in a dark, narrow entranceway with a small coat closet against the wall. He inhaled the powerful smell of mothballs. Beyond the entranceway was a living room, lighted only by a small, flickering fire in the fireplace. Let me go, he heard Anna scream. He's come to see me. Me! His heart pounding, Corey ran into the living room. There on the floor in front of the fireplace, Anna and Brad appeared to be locked in a desperate fight. She was sitting on his chest, struggling to remove his arms from around her waist so that she could stand up. She managed to pin his arms down, but Brad reached up a hand and pushed under her chin until her head snapped back. Then he quickly rolled out from under her and gave her a hard shove that sent her sprawling toward the fire. With a loud groan, he climbed to his feet, preparing to attack again. Corey hurtled across the room, his arms outstretched, ready to help Anna any way he could. Hearing Corey approach, Brad turned around, startled, but he turned too late. Corey leapt onto his back. Corey drove a fist into Brad's side, and both of them fell to the floor and began wrestling to get the advantage. Corey, you're here, Anna cried, recovering and moving away from the fire. Brad swung around, trying to land a punch in Corey's midsection, but Corey scrambled away and the punch went wild. Get out of here, Brad shouted, saliva dripping down his chin, his small eyes wild with rage. You don't know what you're doing. You don't want to be here. Too late, Corey cried. He lowered his head and rammed it into Brad's chest. Brad cried out and staggered backward. Help me, Corey. Please, help me. Anna was shrieking from the corner of the room. She was holding her hands over her ears as if trying to shut out a deafening sound. But Corey and Brad were scuffling in silence now. Brad was soft and not very powerful, but he was bigger than Corey, and he seemed to be more experienced at fighting. He spun Corey around and shoved him hard into the wall. Dazed, Corey dropped to all fours and tried to shake it off, but Brad leapt quickly onto his back and began pulling his head back. My neck! You're going to break my neck! Corey screamed, but his cries made Brad pull back even harder. Help me, Corey! Help me! Anna continued to scream, wedging herself tightly in the corner of the room. Still pulling Corey's head back, Brad lifted Corey to his feet. Corey struggled to breathe. He realized he was about to go under, about to lose consciousness. The pain made it so hard to move, so hard to think. Somehow, he grabbed the vase off the table beside the couch. It was heavy, and nearly slipped from his hand, but with one last burst of strength, he brought the vase down hard over Brad's head. Brad's eyes shut tightly from the pain. He uttered a short cry that faded as he dropped to the floor. Corey, gasping for air, took a step back, trying to ready himself for Brad's next onslaught. But it didn't come. Brad fell heavily onto the floor and didn't move. He was unconscious. Before Corey could regain his balance, Anna was in his arms. She threw her arms around him, nearly knocking him over, and pressed her face against his. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Thank you. I knew you would come. I knew it. Corey's heart was pounding so hard it felt about to explode. His chest heaved as he struggled to catch his breath. His muscles ached from the strain of the fight, and he began to feel sick to his stomach. I knew you would come. I knew it, Anna repeated, pressing against him. We've got to call the police, Corey said, trying to back away from her grasp, trying to calm himself, slow his breathing. Thank you for saving me. Thank you. Her breath was hot against his cheek. He looked down at Brad, still sprawled unconscious on the carpet. Anna, please, we've got to move quickly. Brad won't be out for long, Corey pleaded. He wasn't sure Anna was hearing him. We've got to get you away from here. We've got to make sure you're safe from him. Yes, she whispered. Yes. She took his hands and started to pull him toward the stairway in the front hall. Come with me, Corey. We're alone now. He can't bother us. She kissed his cheek, his forehead. She gave him a devilish look. Come to my room, Corey. He can't bother us now. No, Anna, please. We've got to call the police, he insisted. Her eyes were wild, unreal, like big blue buttons. Her face seemed to glow with excitement. Anna, Brad will wake up soon. We can't. She pulled him up the creaking, uneven stairs. We have to celebrate, Corey. You and me. Come. A sexy, inviting smile spread across her face. Her eyes grew even wider, even more opaque. Corey gave in. He realized he couldn't resist her. He started to follow her up the stairs. I want to show you something, Corey, she said as they reached the landing. What? What is it, Anna? This, she said. The smile faded instantly from her face. Her eyes narrowed. She reached down to a low table in the narrow hallway and picked something up in her hand. What was it? Corey had trouble making it out in a dimly lit hallway. She held it up. It was a silver letter opener shaped like a dagger, sharp as a dagger, too, from the looks of it. Anna? Corey felt the fear well up in his chest. This will take care of Brad, she said. She plunged it through the air, a practice swing. No, Corey yelled. I won't let you. I won't let anyone stand in my way, she said. Not even you. She raised the letter opener above her head. She moved toward him, brandishing it like a knife. In the shadowy light, her face became hard, frightening, ugly with hate. Put that down, he cried, backing up, confused, not sure this was really happening. Hadn't he just saved her? Wasn't she just in his arms thanking him, inviting him up to her room? Anna, what are you doing? Stop. We have to call the police. Her eyes were clear and cold. She didn't respond, didn't seem to hear him. She swung the letter opener down fast, trying to stab him in the chest. Corey leapt backward. The blade missed him by less than an inch. She lunged forward, raising the blade again, preparing another attack. He backed up, raising his hands to fend her off. Anna, what are you doing? Anna, please, listen to me. His back, he realized, was against an open window. He had no room to move now. She moved quickly forward, thrusting the silver blade in front of her. He tried to move back, dodge out of the way. She lunged at him. He tried to jump out of the way, lost his balance, and fell back, out the open window. Chapter 23. It was as if it were happening in slow motion. First he felt his feet leave the floor. Then he saw the black sky and felt the shock of the cold night air on his face. Then he knew he was falling backward, falling down, head first. Instinctively, his legs bent. He caught them around the windowsill. He was a gymnast after all, he told himself. He had skills. He just had to use them. He had to use them, or die. The backs of his knees hit the windowsill. He clamped his legs tightly and held on. Then he swung himself up, using the strong stomach muscles he had developed through years of practice. He flipped himself up until his head was upright, then slid easily back into the hallway. Anna hadn't moved. She stood in the hallway, holding the letter opener in front of her, staring blankly at the window. Corey did a forward flip across the hallway and kicked the letter opener from her hand. She shrieked and seemed to come out of her shock. He landed on his feet and stared at her. Her face, which had been expressionless as she stared at the window, filled with anger. With a desperate cry, a wild animal cry of attack, she lunged at him. Dodging to the side, he grabbed her as she moved past him. He spun her around and pulled her arms behind her back. Let me go, she screamed. But she was light and weak, no match for him. He held her arms firmly behind her back and began to move forward, pushing her to the stairs. She struggled with all of her strength, shrieking and cursing him. He started to pull her down the stairs when he heard a sound. Looking down, he saw to his horror that Brad had revived. Brad was coming up the stairs after him. Corey was trapped. Chapter 24. Stay away, Brad, stay away, Corey heard himself shouting. He wasn't making any sense. Why would Brad stay away? I warned you, Brad called up wearily. He was halfway up the stairs. Anna struggled to free herself, but Corey held on tight. He looked back up to the open window. For a brief moment, he considered dropping Anna or tossing her down at Brad, then leaping out the window. I tried to frighten you away, Brad said, climbing toward him slowly, deliberately. I tried to scare you, to keep you from getting involved with her. Go away, Brad, Anna screamed. Brad took another step closer. Anna struggled. Corey tightened his grip. I just wanted to keep you safe from her, Brad said. Shut up, Brad. I'll kill you too, Anna shrieked. With a burst of strength, she pulled out of Corey's grasp. She dived for the letter opener, but Corey caught her again and pulled her back. Brad sat down on the top step and rubbed the back of his head. Corey suddenly realized that Brad had no intention of fighting him. Want to know the whole story? Brad asked Corey. You're not going to like it. Shut up, Brad. Shut up, Anna cried. I've been telling you the truth. Anna is dead. Shut up, shut up, shut up. She isn't Anna. She's Willa. She's Anna's sister. Corey was so stunned he nearly let her go. When Anna fell down the stairs and died, Mom and I suspected that it wasn't an accident, that Willa pushed her, Brad said, rubbing the bump on his head. She was always insanely jealous of Anna. Anna had everything. Anna was beautiful. She had 1,000,000 friends. She got straight A's without having to study hard. Willa couldn't compete in any way, and Anna never let her forget it. Shut up, Brad. I mean it. But I couldn't prove that Willa had killed Anna, and Mom isn't well. I knew she couldn't survive losing both her daughters, so I never did anything about Willa. After Anna's so-called accident, Willa seems to be okay, Brad continued, his voice soft and shaky, so soft Corey had to struggle to hear. But I kept close watch over her. We moved here. I hoped the new surroundings would help us all forget the tragedy of losing Anna. It was a stupid thing to hope for. Shut up, Brad. You're stupid. You've always been stupid, Willa shrieked, still struggling to free herself from Corey's grasp. Like I said, Willa actually seemed okay once we moved here. Brad told Corey, ignoring his sister's outburst. At least, she acted perfectly normal at home. But when you started coming around, asking for Anna, I began to suspect what Willa was doing. I noticed that she started to dress like Anna and talk like her. I tried to scare you away, Corey. I did my best to keep you from getting involved with her. I figured out that she was calling herself Anna at school, that she was trying to slip into Anna's identity. I'm going to kill you, Willa shrieked, her eyes on the letter opener. I know I should have gotten Willa professional help, Brad said sadly, but we just couldn't afford it. I was foolish. I should have done something for Willa. Anything. I'm going to kill you too, Willa screamed. I'm going to kill you both. I know she's been making phone calls to you and that girl who's your friend. I know she's been making all kinds of threats, leading you on, forcing you to meet her, drawing you into her web. I guess she can't help herself. Wait a minute, Corey broke in. I have one little problem with your story, Brad. What about the other night at the dance? That wasn't Willa, who pushed Lisa down the stairs. That was you. I told you that was a mistake, Brad said heatedly. I told you in the music room it was all a mistake. I followed Willa to the dance. I figured she was going there to make trouble for you. I wanted to stop her. I waited for her there in the hall. It was dark. I couldn't see much of anything. I thought it was Willa who was hurrying past me. I made a grab for her. I didn't really mean to push her, but she fell. Then when I got a good look at her, I realized I had grabbed the wrong girl. I watched to make sure she wasn't badly hurt. Then I panicked and hid. I didn't know what to do. I felt terrible about it. I was just trying to protect you from Willa. Anna went to the dance, not Willa. Willa is dead, Willa broke in. Stop calling me Willa. I'm not Willa. I'm Anna. I'm Anna. I'm Anna. She began wailing at the top of her lungs. Brad stood up and held out his arms. Corey handed Willa over to him. She slumped against Brad, exhausted. Call the police, Brad told Corey. We've got to get her some help. Chapter 25. Corey, you've eaten half a chocolate cake. Don't worry, I'll save you a slice. He cut himself another large chunk and slid it onto his plate. He'd been starving ever since he left the Corwin's house. Lisa sat down close to him on a leather-dang couch and watched him eat. So that's the whole story? She asked. He swallowed a mouthful of icing. Yeah, that's all of it, he said, suddenly no longer feeling hungry. And I was right. About the dead cat and the phone calls, it was all Anna. No, all Willa, he corrected her. But yeah, you were right. He frowned and put the plate on the coffee table. Another horror story from the folks on Fear Street, he said bitterly. He felt unsteady, shaky, as if he might burst out screaming or crying. He stared at the wall, trying to get himself together. He was experiencing so many feelings at once he couldn't sort them out. She put a hand gently on his shoulder. When it comes to girlfriends, you sure know how to pick 'em, she said. He sighed. Yeah, maybe from now on I should let you pick them for me. Her hand went up to his face. She rubbed the back of her hand tenderly over his cheek. Maybe I should, she said softly. He turned and looked at her. Got anyone in mind? Their faces were inches apart. She moved forward to fill in the inches. She kissed him, a long kiss, a sweet kiss. Maybe, she said. This has been a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The New Girl by R.L. Stine, a Fear Street novel, Book 1. Hi, this is Chris again with Nightfall Audiobooks. Thank you very much for joining me for my production of The New Girl by R.L. Stine. This is the first Fear Street novel ever. I had totally forgotten about David Metcalf being a redhead and having a high-pitched voice. It's only relevant because if you have been listening to me since the very beginning, I cast David Metcalf as having the really deep voice, and not the higher-pitched voice like Arnie had in this book, where he's all squeaky and stuff. But I like that Arnie had the squeaky voice and David had the deep voice. David Metcalf is my favorite Fear Street bit character. He shows up in everything. In like the first 20 novels, I think he's in 6 or 7. I mean, this is everyone's debut. He was a major character in this book, and he was barely in it. It's kind of funny. I do like how they fleshed out the mythos behind Fear Street with all the newspaper clippings. That's a really good way of saying, hey, strange things are happening here. We don't know how to explain it. Car accidents occur. People die. The bodies are missing when we go and call for help. We come back. The bodies are gone. It's kind of cool. I forgot about everything in the middle. I forgot Corey was a gymnast. I forgot that Lisa Bloom was on the school newspaper. I forgot that they were best friends and they lived next to each other. There is a lot of classic Fear Street imagery in this novel because it's setting up the whole thing of Fear Street. I mean, it should have it. Simon Fear's burned out mansion, unexplained animal sounds in the middle of the night. This was good stuff. I feel for Corey because I've dated a girl that does this kind of thing with his kind of mind game and mental manipulation and stuff. And you simply don't see it happening when it's happening to you. Once it happens to you, you can easily navigate it and get yourself out of that situation. Call the girl and her nonsense. It's all gone. It's all resolved. This poor guy didn't see it coming. He got taken for a ride. His best friend got injured. Even though it was an accident, she's still getting death threats and things on the phone. Willa is bad, bad news. I am glad that I read this book again after a 20-year hiatus. Do I recommend it? Yes, absolutely. It's Fear Street #1. It does everything right. It has good pacing, good imagery, a pretty good plot. The twist at the end is a little weak, but it does begin that precedent of every Fear Street novel should have a twist ending. So give this one a shot. If you want to read some classic Fear Street, The New Girl is highly recommended. So what should I do next? Write me an email and let me know. nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I'm on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Any feedback is great. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.